everybody, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. Anyway, I wanted to do, I'm going to do a couple of these. This one is going to be spider medicine. So people are always asking me ways that they can figure out what is going on with them or what is going on in their environment. So one of the things that I use is spider medicine. So I'm going to tell just kind of a brief story. So I think it was like around 2001, somewhere in there. Anyway, so I, had been walking the red road for a while and was kind of at this place where I lived in this house. I had a friend of mine who did like the mathematical type of ancient feng shui. And I was living in this house, and this house was nuts. I mean, one day the energy would be like super great and high and vivacious, and then the next day or within a couple hours it would just switch to like, paranormal porthole nightmare. So I had her come over and look at it, and she said that the numbers and the way that the house was built made it bipolar, made it crazy. And then on top of it, my energy, because it's really expansive type energy, made it worse, made it like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I think the only safe place in the whole house was a closet. And then on top of it, so I kept doing a lot of this shamanism work, kept trying to clear it. And, there's only a certain amount that you can do when the actual design is causing a lot of the conflict, right? The energy of the conflict. So there was this huge rose bush that was outside, so I constantly watered it. And there were just like freaky stuff that happened. Like one day, the back patio door, and it was like a little courtyard yard. And I hear this thud thud. And I go out there and there's two birds. One's dead. They're both finches, a female and a male finch. So female and male energy. And the male was dead and the female was running around the backyard, and I went to go get a towel to pick her up to bring her in the house. By the time I got the towel, this cat had jumped in and grabbed her. So there was stuff like that happened that was just crazy. It was almost like that house needed, blood sacrifice or some kind of crazy stuff. And all the insects were constantly trying to infiltrate the house to create meridian lines, through it, because it was crazy. It was like the insects were trying to take it over to kind of balance it out in some way, I think. And it had like 2 bathrooms, the shower. I mean, there's just ants, like just thousands and millions of ants. Like, it just was so unbelievable. But it would only be when the house was in the negative side, and these ants would show up from nowhere, make lines crossing through, areas, blah, 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 blah. There were just a lot of weird, just unbelievable stuff. I remember during the time I lived there, I had to watch a friend of mine's dog. Her name was Angel, sweet dog. Love that dog. And she would freak out, like starting like around 9 o'clock. And I had to train her to ignore everything, I had to stop her. I would just put her on the bed, put a blanket over her, and, we would just ignore and go to sleep, whatever was going on. But 9 o'clock, she'd just kind of go loony bins, because there's all this kind of energy like bouncing off everywhere. You just have to kind of ignore it, So during this period, I was trying to figure out, I was starting to it was wearing on me. And just, was like starting to kind of feel exhausted from it. And that night I got up. I could swear that I could see something. There was kind of one of those little atrium windows off the kitchen that looked into the courtyard backyard. And I kept seeing like some kind of, non-human, multidimensional thing in that window. And, I'd get up and then there'd be just a lot of activity and blah, 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 blah. Some kind of like holographic. I don't know exactly what it was. Couldn't ever really get a good look at it. And then, so that started kind of happening. And then there's just like all kinds of stuff. And then finally, I really started to kind of like really like watch my energy, and especially not be set off by the negative stuff that was going on, because I was amplifying it, right? So it would get really, really crazy. And so when I started to kind of do this, so it's the energy would start getting really crazy in the house. All these things would start to show up. And the other thing too is like, like any person, I just went after these bugs, trying to find all kinds of ways to eliminate them, but there's just no possible way that I could, because a lot of it was multidimensional that was going on. So, I just was like I was a losing battle. So I just got to this place where there was this point where I woke up in the morning and there was probably like 2 or 3 spiders in every window in the house, right? The ants, everything. And I just was like, I just can't battle this stuff anymore. I'm just going to kick back, work on my OCD, and just watch everything and not respond to anything going on. I'm not going to respond positively and I'm not going to respond negatively. And I'm just going to notice and just go about what's going on in my life and just kind of notice things that are going on. Well, right after that happened, I started waking up in the middle of the night and I could smell roses. And so I really started to kind of do a hunt on that. And I think it was like at the kind of the beginning of sort of the internet kind of thing. And then I found this book and it talked about, I read this book. What was her name? She was a saint, I think from Canada. Saint Teresa, I think. And she was a nun. And she had dealt with a lot of, demonic activity and really crazy stuff in her lifetime, which caused her, to kind of be a nun. And then things got kind of a little bit more sketchier when she became a nun. Anyway, it was a really interesting book. It was about her life. But one of the things that it said was that when she starts helping with this kind of activity, you will smell roses, or you will find roses, or there'll be rose petals, or, things like this. And then I also found that it was connected to, the deity Mary, who, supposedly the mother of Jesus or whatever else. So also the stigmata, I had stigmata growing up. I had a different kind of stigmata than the blood stigmata. But it always smelled like roses. So, there was this definite thing that was appearing in my reality. So the smell of roses kind of was indicating to me that I was on the right path, right? I was headed in the right direction. So what I started to do was this medicine work with the spider. I stopped trying to kill them all because they kept repopulating my windows. And they would start building webs and stuff. And then what I started to realize is maybe they were protecting me, right? Because the web can catch things, and it also can block things. Things can bounce off of it. And since all the spiders moved into all the windows in the house, I felt like that's one of the things that they were trying to do, was trying to protect me and catch things. So as it developed, I started really like monitoring the different kinds of webs they were building. And sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and their webs would just be completely decimated and damaged beyond. I mean, they'd always the next night repair them. So I started to see a lot of the activity that was going on in the house and how it was affecting the webs, and that the spiders would just continue to build the webs again, right? So they would be ready, for whatever else energy. So once I allowed the insects, to come in and help to clear energy, balance energy, and whatever else, things started to change. And I was able to pull enough money together, and other things happened that I was going to move. So, super smoky here, so my eyes are like super bothering me. Okay, so we can use spider for helping us with lots of different stuff. And so I'm going to present, I don't know why this is not holding. Let me see if I can find something to hold this up a little bit better. Okay, so we could use, all right, it just keeps sliding down. All right, so we can use spider to help us manifest, collect things. And so sometimes we don't notice what is coming into our life, and we devalue it because we think it's not exactly what we want. And then the opportunity and the potential goes by. So spider medicine can actually collect it into the web, and we can reuse it or revisit it, at any point in time. So on a physical place, if we have spider coming into our life, like we have spider biting us, spider moves into a window, we see spiders going along. Spider is trying to communicate with us. And in some of the, native teachings, grandmother spider is the one who developed the language, right? The symbolic language in her web. So she was the teacher of the first language, right? And so we can use the web to see our web of life, right? How our web of life is working. So if you look at the spiders, you can see what their webs. So if you immediately kill them, you're not giving them the opportunity. You can say, all right, spider, I'm completely uncomfortable with you. I don't really like you very much. I'm terrified of you. However, show me something, right? I'm listening. You don't need to bite me anymore. I'm listening. So just monitor seeing how they're building their webs around you. Because are their webs a full web? How many connections do they have? What kind of number, what kind of symbolic language is spider telling you? Because there's going to be lines that connect the web, right, to whatever is going on. How many connections are there? How does the web look? Does it look symmetrical? Does it look torn up? Does it look destroyed? Is it collecting anything? How much prosperity does that spider have? Obviously, the insects that, let me see, obviously that the insects, let me see if I can do this. That's probably not a good idea. Okay. So obviously the insects, that the spider, let me just see there. Obviously the insects that the spider is collecting in its web are prosperity, resources, abundance, food, survival. So based on how the web is built is what is manifesting, right? The other thing too is like, does the web have a current of wind through it? Is it really invisible? Or is it very visible? All these things indicate to you how your web is. Let's call it your multidimensional web. What kind of condition is your multidimensional web in? What are you attracting into it? What kind of condition is the web in? There are a lot of different thoughts and functions, right? And I always tell people, like, you can go in, when I say that, that means you can go into your mind and you can sit and you can do a meditation and you can see how that web looks. Go into your inner eye and say, okay, I want to look at my web. What does my web look like, right? And really look at it. What kind of shape is it in? Does it have holes? Does it need to be repaired? How many attachments does it have? Is it a circular type pattern? What webs are you attracted to physically? Do an online search of all kinds of different webs and see different designs and kinds of things so that when you go in there, you can decide that, I don't want that kind of a design. Hey, I might want 13 connectors connecting my web up. And what's your web connected to? Like, is it in a tree where it's hidden behind the leaves? You're not going to collect that much. Some of the coolest webs I've seen when the spiders are letting us know that the water is going to be high the next spring. And they'll build them in these bushes up high. And they're huge, right? And then they flex with the wind and everything. And, the strength. What kind of materials are you going to use for your web? So you can go in and design your web. Mind you, usually it takes 30 days that you need to sit and go in because the work that you did on your web yesterday may have not held, or maybe the materials that you were using to make a web aren't holding, or whatever else. So you have to keep going into your own image, your holographic design world, to make sure, and it's always do no harm. This is not about, creating any dark magic or anything like that to harm other people or to get something from other people. This is about you fixing your web of what you're attracting and the design of the web, where it's positioned, and working with that medicine, right? And you can even go in and ask for, a grandmother spider to come and talk to you, maybe give you some teachings on, how to build webs. You'd be really surprised at what you would learn if you ask and you're open to understanding. And, maybe you might get assistance on helping to build your multi-dimensional web in your computer hard drive into a holographic image, right? And all of these things are really important because we're physical, we're mental, we're emotional, we're spiritual, and we're multidimensional. So at some point in time, you have to go in and, fake it till you make it is what I call it, and always commit to a 30-day, no matter what the practice is going to be, like web building, web designing, but we're talking more on a level of spider medicine, and spend 30 days with it, to see what it's at. And then periodically, you've got to check back until it holds, completely 100% holds. And then you're good to go. Then you can go work on something else. So anyway, hopefully in the near future, I'd like to do a couple more of these ideas to give people some different kinds of practices that help us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and multidimensionally. So just go ahead and look for them. Thank you. Bye. Conscious of Economics, Urban Farm Project, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff. Bye. Also, if you want personal work and you want to work with somebody, I do charge for my online work. But if you need help with some coaching or consulting or anything that has to do with, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or multidimensional stuff, just go ahead and email me, consciousnessofeconomics@gmail.com, and then I can respond, and I do all my meetings by video call. All right. Thank you. Bye.